I'm Nancy Morris, and today I'm going to be interviewing Willie McJames.
My name is Willie McWayne Winchester James. What a name to give a baby.
What are some of your earliest faith memories, or was there a spiritual or religious background to your childhood?
I was born in Tennessee, Knoxville, Tennessee, and I have my childhood memories there. I remember being we called it christened at that time instead of baptized. They christened the babies, but I was not a baby. Father married twice, so this was the second baby for him. I was 5 years old, and they had me christened at the same time. I remember standing at that pulpit. I could see it in my memory today. And I remember standing in that church at the altar as if it were today. I could see myself and that baby being christened. And that's the first memory I have at 5 years old.
You mentioned that you experienced a salvation experience as a late teenager.
Yes, I belonged to a group of young people, and we met in people's homes. The home of Dr. and Mrs. Hutcherson, and we met at their home, this group of young people, every Saturday night. And that is where I had my most vivid recollection of a salvation experience. I felt a very strong religious experience of salvation. Jesus Christ, mostly I associated my connection with instead of just God. I recognized him as a son of God, but I related my experience to Jesus Christ.
Who fostered this continuing path for you? Any particular, your father, your stepmother, your family members?
Well, it was my boyfriend and my husband.
Oh.
Because he was studying to be a minister.
Were you dating at that time?
Yes.
Dr. James?
Yes.
Oh. And so he was an encourager, and you were linked.
Well, both, yes. Both of us encouraged each other.
Was your family, your immediate family, an integral part of this spiritual growth?
Well, they always were. My father was. He was a very religious man. He was a teacher.
So were there some specific times where you were aware that God was guiding your life, apart from that one salvation experience that you had?
Well, I married, and he was in the ministry, but in his earlier years, he was appointed to these smaller churches in the conference. We had a baby soon after we married, and I stayed home with the baby. I did work part-time before I had the baby. I worked at Fort Knox, and I loved my work. I loved the secretarial work back then.
Would you comment at all on that itinerant system that the Methodist Church has? Do you think that's a good thing for
I liked it.
you? Liked it?
You liked the moving around to the various parts?
Oh, yes. I loved it.
And meeting new congregations was probably fun.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Do you recall times when your faith was threatened?
I never had doubts. I had experiences which were not in my older life, which are not very pleasant, but I haven't had any doubt. God smoothed it for me.
How has St. Paul United Methodist Church influenced your faith journey?
It's always been a grounding point for me, a standing foundation. And so Dr. Mundy asked Bill, when he first felt the call to preach, and after he got his license, asked him to preach his first sermon in St. Paul Church. So that's where he preached his first sermon, and that's where he preached his last sermon.
My goodness.
In retirement. So that's one reason it means so much to me.
You mentioned earlier that somebody had said to you that your husband saved St. Paul.
St. Paul. And that's when the bishop appointed Bill. Bill was always a, what do you call it, peacemaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
absolutely.
the bishop sent him several places to
make peace.
For peace. And so he sent him to St. Paul. And Wade got up in the Sunday school class and said, I told Cullen this, that Bill James saved St. Paul Church. And I said, no, God saved St. Paul Church.
Bill was his vessel.
And he said, well, through Bill James.
Mm-hmm.
You just couldn't help but love him, could you?
Everybody loved him. I said they didn't always love me, but they loved him.
That's not true.
I ran interference for him.
That's right. That's right.
You were a good pair. You were complimentary.
Mm-hmm.